Hey guys, I wanted to finish this up for you so that you knew what all was happening. I left you at a pretty good cliffhanger. I want to backtrack just a touch to let you catch up some. Through the window, the boys saw a spaceship. Two points of light shot from the ship and headed directly for the Budwig house. The first one hit the chimney and sent bricks falling into the fireplace. The second hit upstairs in the bathroom. Water began dripping down from the hole in the ceiling. Walter handed the dice to Danny, who had a hard time lifting his short, heavy arm. He rolled, and as Walter moved his token for him, he slowly returned to his normal shape. A card popped out. Danny read it silently. "This is bad," he said. "Zorgon pirate boards your ship." The room shook as the spaceship banged up against the house. The boys heard footsteps on the roof. Through the opening in the ceiling, they saw someone or something climb through the hole in the roof and enter the room above them. Danny and Walter moved to the hallway, standing behind the flattened robot. They held each other, too terrified to move. A humming sound came from their feet. They looked down and saw the robot's eyes light up. He lifted his head, fixed his eyes on the hole in the ceiling, and spoke. "Alien life form must destroy." His claw-like hands twitched, but he couldn't get up. Danny and Walter helped him to his feet. He staggered forward as the pirate's scaly tail and lizard-like legs swung down from the hole. The robot lifted one of his claws and snapped it sharply around the creature's tail. The Zorgon howled, jerking himself back through the hole, with the robot still attached. He thrashed and wailed and banging against the walls overhead. Then, minus one arm, the robot dropped down through the hole. The boys heard the Zorgon scramble across the roof and saw the flash of his rockets as his ship sped away. It seemed hopeless. The robot's eyes were dark again. They had been playing almost 3 hours, and their tokens rested in a galaxy far away from Zathura and twice that far from Earth. "We're never going to make it," said Walter. "Sure we are," answered Danny, and he handed the dice to his brother. "Me and you, together, we can do it." Walter cradled the dice in his hand and sighed. "You and I," he said wearily. "You and I." He looked at his little brother, who was grinning. "That's right," said Danny. "Together." Walter rolled the dice, a 1 and a 2. He moved his token to the black hole square on the board. The card popped out. "You have entered the black hole," Walter read. "Go back in time 1 hour for each mark on the dice." He jumped up and looked around the room. "You see any black holes?" His brother pointed to the floor. The black spot was slowly spreading under Walter's feet, like a perfectly round puddle of ink. At first Walter thought he was sinking into it, but it was the hole that was rising. He tried to run, but he couldn't. Then the hole rose higher and higher, and he couldn't feel his legs anymore either. "What's going on?" he cried. Danny looked below the disc-like hole. "Walter," he said, "the bottom part of you is gone." As the hole rose higher and higher, there was less and less of Walter, until only his head remained. Danny tried to pull on the hole to save what was left of his brother, but his hands passed through the blackness as if they were made of smoke. His chin dropped to his chest and he began to sob. "Danny!" Walter called softly. Danny looked up at his brother's floating head. "Danny!" he began. "I never told you this, but I—" And that was all he got to say, because the hole kept rising, past his mouth, his nose, and finally right over the top of his head. Walter was completely swallowed up, floating in empty darkness. He closed his eyes as he began to spin, plunging head over heels through pitch black space. Then thud! He landed hard on his knees. There was something in his arms, something wriggling around. He opened his eyes and found himself back in the park by the house. He had one arm wrapped tightly around Danny's neck and one hand gripping the nose of the boy. "I'm telling!" Danny squealed. Walter let go and fell back on the grass. He was dizzy, very dizzy. Danny jumped up and started to run, but stopped. "Hey!" he said. "What's that?" He went to the tree and picked up the box resting against the trunk. He held the box out to Walter. "Look," he said. "It's some kind of game." Walter grabbed it. "Hey, give it back," said Danny. His big brother got to his feet. "You don't want to play this," he said. "Trust me, I tried it once." He went over to a trash can and jammed the box deep inside. "Come on," he said. "I've got a better idea. Let's go play catch." Danny smiled. "You mean together? Me and you?" Walter put his arm around his brother. Yeah, that's right, he said. Me and you together. All right, guys. Now it's going to be up to you to make the comparison. I didn't give you any extra pictures other than what's on the screen. You had to come up with all the imagery that the author put into this. So the story that you see that played out in your mind right now may be totally different from what you're going to see in the video. And that's what you need to keep in mind. You only heard the words. You didn't see any other image than what you made up in your mind. And that's the important part. You're going to contrast what was different in your mind to what was different when the producer and the director came up with this. You know, you're going to compare the two scripts. What did they do? How did they interact? All those things you're going to compare and contrast on the following sheet. All right. Good luck, guys.